when it comes to love, we must start with not your love for your boyfriend or girlfriend or friend or family member or pet, but start with God's love for us, the perfect love that God has for us. It's the pattern and the prototype of the love that we might have for one another by God's grace. That's God's love through us to one another. And so he says that God's love is shown for us like a bride and a groom. So he uses this timeless metaphor. Have you been to a wedding? As a pastor, one of the things I really enjoy doing is officiating weddings for people who love each other. And it's an amazing moment when the back door of the church opens and the bride walks in, and there she is in all of her glory. I love to see her face and see her joy and her smile and her hope. And then I like to turn, and usually the groom is standing to my left, and I like to see his face as he is seeing her face. The joy, the love, the cherishing, the affection, the devotion that he has for her, his face sort of says it all. What he's saying is that Jesus' love for the church is like a groom's love for the bride. It's like a groom's love for the bride. It's this timeless, amazing, devoted, perfect commitment, covenant, and affection. That's why you and I tend to love weddings. We tend to love great romantic stories. We love to see people fall in love. We love to see people stay in love. And all of that is the heart's yearning for what is ultimately only possible from Jesus. And that's that never-ending, perfect, committed, devoted, affectionate love. And so you need to know this, Morris Hill. Jesus loves all of his people collectively together as the church, and it's like a bride and a groom. Now, in saying that, I know that you ladies will hear, oh, Jesus loves us like a groom loves his bride. And that'll emotionally be very easy for you to accept because as the dad of two little girls, my experience is most little girls grow up practicing for their wedding. They start quite young. They'll get all dressed up in a sort of wedding gown, and they're practicing for their wedding starting at a very young age. For us men, however, the metaphor has some complexities, right? Like, how many of you men, you would say, yes, I feel like a bride, and Jesus feels like my husband. Even the thought of me in a wedding dress, you're thinking, that's a lot of alterations, and I've never seen a wedding dress with a neck of that capacity. And so for us men, and I would say the metaphor here is very helpful for the ladies, it's like a husband and a wife are pattern and prototypical of Jesus' love for his church. For us men, I want you to know that when the Bible speaks of the bride of Christ, it never speaks of an individual person, but collective and national. So the church is like a bride. Individual men don't relate to Jesus like a wife. But collectively as the church, we follow, submit to, trust, enjoy, live life with Jesus like a wife does with a loving, devoted husband. And that's the big idea. Now, what this causes us to understand is that longing that we have for a perfect love, an unending love, a devoted love, a generous love, a sacrificial love, a humble love, is not something that will be met or satisfied by our horizontal relationships. It's only possible through our vertical relationship. What I mean is this: only God in Jesus Christ loves perfectly, loves humbly, loves continually, loves unselfishly, loves generously all the time without fail. And as we receive this love from Jesus Christ, and we're part of the collective bride, the beloved people of Jesus Christ, we think of the end of time. Revelation 19 explains the wedding supper of the Lamb, that history will end with a ceremony where Jesus comes back for his people to love and bless them and to give them a kingdom home where they dwell together forever. We understand that kind of love and affection as we think biblically. And what that does is it allows us to stop using people and to start loving them. And when we're using them, we're often using them for the love that we're supposed to receive in our relationship from Jesus. And what oftentimes happens, particularly for those of you who are single, Let me speak momentarily to those who are single. For the first time in the nation's history, the majority of adults are single. People are waiting longer than ever to marry. The average woman is about 27, the average man about 29, and every few years that goes up as people are waiting longer to marry. And what can happen is that you will have a job description or an expectation of sorts for a relationship, that someone would love you. You hand it to a friend and they fail you. You hand it to a family member and they fail you. Or you get married and you hand it to a spouse and they fail you. And there's this deep sense of loss. Well, usually that's a job description that only Jesus can fill. That he would never leave you, never forsake you, that he would never fail you, that he would never disappoint you, that he would never in any way deal in a way toward you that was anything other than love. And what that does is it turns love into an idol. And then all of a sudden we're using people so that we would get that love that we long for. And here's the good news. If that love comes from Jesus, that longing for love is met, we are loved perfectly. That allows us to start loving others with the love that we receive. And it means we don't have to be in a relationship. We could be single like Jesus was and still satisfied because the loving relationship exists whether or not we're in a dating relationship. It means that even when those that we love, particularly our spouse, they fail us as they will, our love has not come to an end and we're not without love, and our identity is not one as unloved or formerly loved or previously loved, but one who is perfectly loved and continually loved and still loved by Jesus. It frees us up when we know that Jesus loves us. It frees us up to love him and to love others with the love that he gives. And this is all encapsulated in Paul's teaching regarding how Jesus' love for the church is pattern, prototypical, and source for the husband's love for the wife.